যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রা নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. Today we will have AcademicMan with us. He's joining us shortly. Today I wanted to discuss and point out a common misconception in Indian politics, Indian academia, in Indian society in general, which I think is kneecapping us in every narrative, discourse, policy position, which is the core handicap, I think, of the Indian society and Indian state, which is considering the so-called Hinduism following group to be the majority. We still have not reached any consensus about who is Hindu and who is not. Some people consider the Lingayats, the Arya Samajis Hindus, some people do not. Savarkar considered almost anyone and everyone Hindus, most people oppose him. So if who in fact is a Hindu is not an unanimous fact, how are we considering that Hindus are the majority in the first place? But let's say just the people who agree to write Hindu officially in their government documents, they are Hindus. There we have a common, I think, framing misconception, framing problem, a lexicon problem, I think a definition problem. You just write the word Hindu without any thought put into it. You were just told you were a Hindu. That name became popular one fine morning in your family, and thus you started writing down in every document that you are Hindu, in every government document. Now, a lot of people move on from it. Not a lot of people, some people these days for the last 10-20 years have been moving on from it and are writing humanist or atheist in place of religion. So their religion itself is something called human or humanism or atheism. Some people are quitting their surnames and stuff. So except the issue of government documents, where else is this majority of Hindus or Hinduism surviving or even existing? Because we are divided amongst castes, religions, and state, regional favoritism, etc. So in terms of all the contexts where we would consider, we would end up considering a religion or a people from a religion, one single force or one single entity, on all those metrics, Hindus do not qualify at all, have ever qualified. And it has been the longest contention of leftist academics, very, very credentialed, the biggest of them all, that Hinduism doesn't exist. It has never existed up until a few years back, and even today they are not really a religion, and therefore how can you really do Hindutva or hope for Hindutva when Hinduism itself is not an unanimous agreed upon term or a group? And they have said Hinduism didn't exist until the Puranas were written, etc. On the other hand, they have parallelly gone on saying that no, Salvatore Babones, Hindus are the real minority. Yes, I don't believe Hindus are the real minority. I believe different castes are the real minority. The only majority in the country are Muslims, because when you say a group follows this religion, that is the metric. If at all that is a metric, then only Muslims qualify in that, no one else. Yeah, Jains do, Buddhists do, and they are also a very, very tiny minority. Jews are, Parsis are, Anglo-Indians are, they all exist. They all do follow those metrics and do check those boxes, and they are all minorities. Muslims are the only majority. Brahmins are 4%. Other castes are other percentages. Scheduled castes have different caste divisions in between them. So do the tribes. An ST from Northeast might have nothing common, whether culturally or even politically, from an ST from another part of the country. Professor is saying, I have to go to bed. I'll listen in the morning. Try not to be ridiculous. Yes, we won't be ridiculous, Professor. We will argue on just data. Now, allegedly, a Hindu party is functioning at the center who doesn't get votes from a majority of Hindus. Do the academic man? Are you here?
No, I doubt they get
Hello?
votes from.
Whose audio is not? Yeah,
Yeah,
my audio is. Yeah. What did you do to your frequency? Now you sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
really. Okay,
Yes.
that's okay.
Uh, Salvatore Baban has just told us to not have a ridiculous conversation, and you started with sounding like a chipmunk.
Is this better?
Yeah, please exit and come back again after lowering the frequency range. Yeah, good night, Professor. So, if at all those castes are divided amongst themselves, which according to leftist academics themselves are, and by their voting patterns, we see that most people do not identify as one whole Hindu group. Most so-called Hindus do not. Otherwise, they would all vote for one party, maybe vote for their ideology, maybe. They do not. Hindutva doesn't work on the ground even today. Most people vote on the basis of their caste or the amount of freebies they get. And most Hindus don't vote for BJP. There's a small
Yep.
consolidated amount of Hindus who vote for BJP. And therefore, you see, I think if at all we must have majority versus minority rights, the minority rights must all go to specific castes, and the Muslims must be looked upon as the majority. Though I personally do not believe in reservations and majoritarianism, but if at all those things are the order of the day, if at all they are the only feasible things that our politicians can do, Muslims must be considered the majority, not this imaginary group called Hindus. Now, academic man, yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes. Is this
Yeah.
better?
Yeah.
Okay.
The increase in the volume would be better.
That's not up to me. I guess I'll speak
Okay.
up a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it might have been a problem with my headphone. Is there anything called a Hindu group in India?
Who is a Hindu? Yes. I mean, technically, I guess, like you just mentioned, that a lot of people may write Hindu without thinking
Hello?
twice. But yes.
Oh, sorry. There was a problem with my headphone. Yeah, go on.
God. Anyway, so there are people who will probably write Hindu, on their passport or whatever, and then they'll go and support some caste movement or some some kind of anti-India movement or something like that, right? So it's not like if our territorial identity as people who belong to this land is the one thing that makes us Hindu, then I don't think like 80 or 90% people will even qualify as Hindus, because most people have allegiance to their caste, not their country, and or to some other external forces that they have been taught are better, right? Like, or socialist parties that promise them freebies at the cost of national interest most of the time, right? So if most people are voting on the basis of money and all that, most Hindus are, because as we know, and this is not me saying, Dr. Ambedkar in his book Pakistan or the Partition of India said that the Muslims vote for on the basis of whether the masjid is being repaired, whether more madrasas are being built, whether you are allotting more waqf land, this kind of thing, right? So if that is how Muslims vote, which basically means that they vote on the basis of their identity as Muslims, which is totally visible in terms of West Bengal, for example, then no equivalent measure of identity exists for Hindus. What am I trying to say? It means that a Mulayam Singh Yadav who orders the unaliving of Karsevaks is voted for by a large number of Hindus who go to temple, who worship cows and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If a lot of people vote for TMC, whether you are like it or not, that's not an issue. Whether a lot of Hindus do vote for TMC. Muslims would not be caught dead voting for BJP. That much I know. And that is the main reason where I see the value in today's topic, where the only one group which politicians can count on to vote on the basis of their religion exclusively are Muslims. Because if you give Hindus 1,000 rupees and some kind of freebie, some crap, some promises of sarkari job and stuff like that, they would vote for Al Qaeda tomorrow if it meant $1,000 in their bank account. Most people would. If that is most Hindus in India, which they have been doing, which is why parties like Congress, CPIM, TMC, SP, BSP, all these parties, and even sometimes BJP, who allied with PDP earlier, who has kind of quote-unquote alliance with parties like TMC and all, understanding with these parties. If Hindus can vote for these kind of parties who are basically talking about leeching their temples, leeching taxes from their temples, who are not, let alone freeing temples, they are taking all the money from the temples and giving it to other causes, anti-Hindu causes even. If we're talking about stuff like fudging up the defense, before BJP there was certainly a question of whether our defense forces were getting the amount of money they need for the defense of this country. If it meant protecting this country, then except BJP, I don't think a lot of parties stood the muster of that question. And in that sense, that they're corrupt and go against blatantly Hindu, openly Hindu issues on many a times, and they still get votes, like crores of votes. In that case, most people who vote in India are not Hindus, do not vote as Hindus. If you don't vote as a Hindu, if you do not support causes that are for a Hindu majority to exist, then you are not a Hindu. I don't think you are, you can qualify as a Hindu. That's my view. Praying
in this context, Gautam Vadun is asking, why doesn't praying in a temple make you a Hindu?
Because simply put, and I've said this a number of times, and I think even you've said this a number of times, we've all seen communists who go to the temples, ask the deities for money, wealth, power, and then come out and say, Kashmir Mange Azadi, or whatever, Ram Mandir should not happen, whatever. I mean, he goes to one temple to say that another temple should not happen, or goes against the Waqf bill, does not support UCC, does not claims that the RSS was behind 2611, that kind of thing, right? So if a person goes to a temple and then says this stuff, then what's the point of going to a temple? I've seen a lot of these people who genuinely, support those causes, who say that nothing happened in Kashmir, nothing happened in Bengal, everything's peaceful, everything's nice, all that stuff. So if people who go to temples say this, and who are way more religious than you and I will ever be, then how does your religiosity matter, whether you are a Hindu or not?
In this context, Gautam Varun has an interesting counter question that do you both really believe that Muslims actually practice one type of Islam in our country? And we know that they don't, and we therefore don't consider this a fact. But in all the metrics that it matters that whether you are a Muslim or not, in all of those metrics, they seem to be one united entity. Therefore,
The
what would be your right?
the concerns go beyond individual religiosity. That's
Hmm.
where they win, and they will continue to win.
Hmm.
If
Right.
you vote, if you're see, for example, most Muslims don't benefit because of waqf. The waqf properties that exist, most Muslims don't benefit out of that.
What top
But they will
5-10% of the Muslims probably benefit, not the
not even
overwhelming
those, maybe
majority
top
of Muslims.
1%. Yeah, exactly. Maybe 1%, right?
Hmm.
But they will still come out because they know that even if my oppressive leader who is Ashraf is getting that land, it still means less land for others and more land for me, for my
Hmm.
community. So your community trumps every other aspect. But for Hindus, economy, mane matlab, your job, whether you're getting cheap stuff from the government, whether you're getting freebies, that matters any day, way more than any other thing like national security, like other things like UCC and basic stuff, right? Saving temples from government control, like just basic calls for equality, not even imposing laws or taking over other people's land and stuff. Just basic stuff where people are equal, people should be equal. That kind of demand, people go against that.
Hmm.
Therefore, they are not Hindus. Whoever goes against this is not a Hindu.
Hmm.
If that
Now,
is the measure,
yeah, go on.
well, as I repeatedly am saying, that if that is the measure, then again, most like I don't think 80% of Hindu voters are actually Hindu.
Yes. Now, so far this seems to be sort of a Hindu bashing ceremony, which we don't want it to turn out to be, because we are just observing and saying about things as we see them. This doesn't even have to be a criticism, really. This is just how Hindus are. This is just how Muslims are. Uh,
Yeah.
my question is more on in the academic way of thinking. Why the misconception? And therefore, what do we do about the misconception then? Shouldn't the laws change and call the Muslims the majority and different castes the different minorities? Does it really
No,
matter if those castes have some semblance of a cultural interaction between them, that yeah, your god is a rupa of my god, etc., or we worship this god that way, you worship that god this way? Therefore, should they be considered Hindus?
I don't think bringing gods and rituals into the conversation will ever solve the issue, ever,
Okay.
because there will be some division of lines where you know a person from UP may not like the fact that a person from Bengal eats fish, right? And a person from Bengal may not like the fact that somebody has vegetarian food on Navaratri. Now we can go into that whole rabbit hole where some
Hmm.
people say who is a real Hindu, this person is a
Yeah.
fake Hindu, that thing. And even if that is going to be the debate, even then more majority then are not Hindu. Again, it goes back to that whole thing where majority people are not Hindu then, right? If your way of life is the ultimate Hindu way of life, then most people are not going to agree with each other on that. Having said that, if what about the academic narrative? You say academic narratives are all about Brahman Bhujan, as you have said many a
Academic
times. That
narrative and even even state policy. When will
yes,
the state with capital S start recognizing that Muslims are the majority and the different castes are the minorities?
I doubt the state's authorities can take their heads out of their asses to
Hmm.
think in such advanced terms. We should not expect them now. Uh, when I say we should not expect them to do it, I am saying that in a very kind of negative way, because if I say that we shouldn't expect them to do so, and then people will start saying, the onus is on us to change the narrative and stuff, then it will never happen, because it's never, the state is all powerful in creating narratives and destroying narratives. It's always been the case.
Hmm.
If for example, if Anushilan Samiti and all, and Aurobindo and Savarkar and all these people's views, Swami Vivekananda's views were would have worked, they all have highly dedicated preachers and very talented people who believe in them. But their ways of life have been almost eradicated from the country through the government programs, right? It's not normal to say, I believe in Swami Vivekananda. It's not normal to say that. And this has just been 70 years of brainwashing. So my point is that without the state, you don't have a way out. But the state authorities who supposedly represent Hindus are more interested in self-promotion and kind of, they're not really equipped to deal with these issues in that sense.
Now, Abhay has a very interesting counter question to which we will think hard and see what all might be the real outcomes of what we are discussing here. Abhay is asking, what will we achieve by classifying different castes as minorities? First of all, who is this we? I'm guessing the Hindutva crowd who actually believe that Hindus exist and Hinduism exists and there is possibility of an unity, which doesn't exist but can happen. It's a pipe dream at least. So take us to a what if scenario. What can actually happen if all the castes are simply minorities and they have their minority politics, all the caste unity minority politics, and the Muslims are the official majority. Whoever wants to appease them can appease them, which happens anyway. What would be the impact on the Hindu side, on the so-called Hindu side?
If you're asking whether classifying like most castes as minority,
All castes.
All castes as a minority, which is perhaps true to reality, but they're not going to accept it. See, most caste movements are based on claiming majority. Okay. So this totally goes against most caste groups ka claim. Like if you don't have the numbers, then you can't play the representation card. Like remember what Rahul Gandhi used to said, jitni abadi utna haq, right? So if you have less abadi, you have less haq. Haq means representation, benefits, whatever crap. Now, the thing is, most castes will not agree to this. And we have seen in the past when castes merge into 2-3 castes can merge and become a caste just for political
That's how
reasons.
the term Dalit has come about, scheduled castes have come about.
Yes, exactly. So if they group up and they become this one mega caste or something
Right.
to get benefits, even then, the bigger issue is that whether they will agree to the fact that they are still going to be the minority and they're going to have to share power with other bigger majorities or minorities. So
what Milton Patel is saying here, isn't that a better way to go? Isn't that a possible outcome of what we are discussing?
Yes, it's a possibility, but here the problem is that the state is very weird. The state will give you minority status and benefits only if you satisfy a certain kind of number and political equation. मतलब तुम स्टेट के साथ स्टेट नहीं खेल सकते हो. If you say I'm less than 1% or maybe 1%, the state will say, then how the hell do you even matter? There's a very sweet spot around 10, 15, 20% that will get you the benefits along with minority tag.
Right. Exactly.
ये sweet spot है. ये बहुत अजीब है. मतलब being like if you're a Parsi, it doesn't matter. no party is gonna give a damn about you, right? So it won't. Or you're a Buddhist, even then it won't matter unless you have you have a Ladakh or something. But anyway, the population is so low it doesn't even matter nationally. So it won't matter unless you have a certain number, which is again very, like I said, it's a sweet spot. And this isko leke bawal zyada hoga. The problem is that if you actually say that everyone should stick to that and get that, then there will be such internal clashes within the whatever 75% of people who claim to be non-Muslim, non-Christian. If that if these 75% people keep fighting, which is what's happening right now, then you don't have a lot to fight against the others, in the sense that you can't wrestle your resources from the others, because then the politicians will just go for the biggest biggest matlab kya bolu main, matlab mother load of votes. Why the hell would they vote to keep you happy? If they're getting 20% from another group of people, and they can just stitch, they have their own vote bank, and they throw money at some people, they're all there. If this can keep winning votes for them, then why should they care if you're a minority or not? It's a big problem. Like, if the problem here is with the academia is that if you let's say fund this idea that matlab everyone's a minority, if you fund this idea, then it creates a different issue where people will group up, and there'll be a whole fight for resources where every minority will claim that I have more, I want more, that kind of thing.
That's something that's already happening in the name of caste politics, right?
Yes, that is already happening. So it will just be another version of that.
So it's only the upper castes who are not playing that game, right?
The upper castes are now going to perhaps start playing that game, because once the caste census thing happens, they see the problem with the Dumontian view is that it doesn't, like, we've adopted it, but it has been challenged in reality so many times. So nobody cares. Like, nobody knows how caste actually works in different states. That's the other big issue with caste census. Like, you might do a caste census, you might say that Brahmin matlab you don't get any reservations, but there are Pirali Brahmins, so there are Maha Brahmins who are treated like scheduled castes.
Agrodhani Brahmins as well.
Agrodhani Brahmin. People like Rabindranath Tagore did not get Brahmin women to marry because respectable Brahmin women to marry, because they were close with Muslims. So there are Brahmins also who are oppressed, but if you bring that narrative out, then the problem is that nobody will believe that, and Brahmins don't have the numbers. See, this is where the sheer force of numbers hits you in a democracy, which is where I think the Open Letter. There's a channel called Open Letter. He was debating a few days ago on the issue of democracy. He's saying that no country has been a democracy and then developed. Most countries have developed and then become a democracy.
Yeah, some of our viewers have also said it. Some libertarians.
Yeah, it's a fact. Like, it's impossible. And the other issue that we are actually dealing with is the overarching power of the state in terms of controlling land and resources. So the state at will segregates land and resources depending on its political interests.
At often arbitrary will.
Totally arbitrary. Matlab, they have these calculations, complex calculations. Every party has them. Now the problem is, you and I, as perhaps very small private property owners, we get screwed in the process, and that will qualify most Hindus as small property owners, like tiny pieces of land. Most, I mean, I guess maybe not most, but a large number of Hindus have them. In that sense, if you look at it, the state actually allocates the land owned by these groups to people it wants to kind of make powerful. That also includes temples, which were actually private property. Temples were private property always, at least before 1947, or I don't know, before the colonial period, British colonial period. As far as I understand, temples were private property, and they should have been protected.
Were they not community property? Yeah, some private temples obviously existed.
No, but they were built by a certain group of families or families. Let's say the Mutua caste builds a temple, which they have in many places. So then it's a community property, but they would have a group of trustees and stuff, which would have to come from that community.
Yes.
People who are identifying as Mutua, who are totally like within that circle. Matlab, tomorrow you can't go and say, okay, I identify as Mutua, give me that land. Okay, you can't say that. So it's like that. So even when they were they were owned by a community, then also the trustees would be democratically elected from within that believing community. The state could not arbitrarily put any random person on the committee, on the trustees, right? So that's how the state is actually taking away private property in that sense.
Now, you say that the state doesn't care about Jews or Buddhists or Parsis because their number is that low, but they do get the benefits, right?
Buddhists, I don't know if Buddhists get reservation. I don't know if Parsis
No,
get
but
reservation.
but all the minority benefits, there are no reservations just because you are a religious minority. So all the other benefits that you are supposed to get because you are a
What
minority.
kind of benefits are you talking about? Yeah, okay, temples. Yeah, you're perhaps bringing up the Ramakrishna Mission case where Ramakrishna Mission had to declare itself a minority religion to get the same rights as Buddhists and churches and mosques and stuff. So that
Today Lingayats are trying the same things. Even Onukul Thakur's followers, they are also trying to get minority status. Why aren't they getting minority status?
ये तो भाई तुमको स्टेट अथॉरिटी से पूछना पड़ेगा कि why some people are more minority than others, why some people are more equal than others, or unequal than others. So and with the Hindu government at the helm, that becomes even, I don't know, self-proclaimed Hindu government at the helm, it becomes difficult for
Now,
us to answer that question.
In the situation that where, let's say, the government has finally declared that okay, nothing called Hinduism exists, you just write your caste in place of your religion or your sampradaya and stuff, and Muslims are considered to be the majority legally speaking, what do you see happening? There are what kind of caste alliances can happen then? Brahmins will still be 4% in the country and they will get minority benefits. What about Vaishyas and Kshatriyas or the Jatis?
भाई कुछ भी हो सकता है.
Extrapolate what is happening today in the name of caste politics. All of that is different castes in the general category.
देखो,
and tell us what can happen.
If Yadavs can team up with Muslims, Yadavs who are cow protectors and Muslims who are cow eaters can team up to get power in Uttar Pradesh and to defeat them. If Brahmins and Dalits, who are apparently sworn enemies according to everyone, if Brahmins and Dalits can get together to defeat those people, then anyone can group up and do anything. There is no logic behind this. Okay. There is just like I said, there's a question of numbers, which is why the caste census becomes very important in this case. That if a caste is to be enumerated in terms of its official, so-called official numbers, then the government knows who can be friends with whom, and who can team up with whom, and whether we let this team up happen or whether we should make that team up happen. We should marry those two castes and get power. That kind of these kind of database exercises are done by the government precisely so that they can do the least and get the most out of this community.
In that situation, if at all such an alliance happens between those castes, and let's say Brahmins, Vaishyas and Kshatriyas, who are today general category, they actually team up and say that we are all going to call ourselves, let's say, the GC caste only, and going to vote in that way.
I have to make a tiny correction. Most Kshatriyas and sometimes Vaishyas are actually OBCs, right?
And FCs as well. The Shahs are FCs and the Ghoti Shahs, right.
So what I'm saying, like they team up and whoever's general category, they team up. Whoever
as a general category, they become a voting bloc, therefore, because of the kind of politics, discourse creation, knowledge production they do, because of the kind of processions and party meetings and speeches they listen to. All of that leads to the general category becoming a united political front in itself. Wouldn't that lead to actually more Hindutva, and that too without basing it on a nice cute hope? Instead, it happens because of real incentives.
Your assumption is that, firstly, let's say you're talking a bit like Tommy Robinson in that sense. Like your hopes are like Tommy Robinson, where you tell people ki matlab ye kharab ho raha hai and we should unite for a larger cause.
So that's what we are doing right now, which is not
Yes,
working.
which is never going to work, because I'll tell you why. The moment you see a political party, like I said, a political party is a business.
No, but
right?
what I'm proposing and what's happening right now are not the same things, right? Right now,
No,
what's happening is a hope is what we are waiting for, the pipe dream. And at that point, there will be just caste-based politics, but it will be the general categories or whoever wants to unite. They play the caste politics and get things
होना ही
done.
नहीं चाहता है. देखो, पहले तो बात, nobody wants to be general. Okay.
But what if you get
Let's face
minority
it.
benefits by calling yourself general category?
You can't. That is the whole point. You see, if the day there's a leader, देखो, movement मतलब you need a leader, you need a face, you need someone to articulate these points. Let's say you become a leader tomorrow. You think that mainstream political parties will ensure that you can speak in public? Because the biggest issue with us is, firstly, this if that guy Edward Snowden has to run away from the US for talking about personal liberties and stuff,
Yeah.
then forget India. Okay, forget it totally. And let's say you do bring up a organic movement, if it's
Right.
ever possible, and
Right.
you do talk about GCs uniting and saying that forget everything, look at us, we're getting screwed.
No, but not just because we are getting screwed, because we are now the minorities as well.
हाँ, मतलब ये minority majority का खेल होगा. मतलब you can stitch together a alliance of a very large number of people, let's say. But the bigger issue will be that it is very difficult for that to happen. Like, how many times have you ever seen people from the GCs unite on any one issue except reservation? And
But
even
I have seen people unite on the basis of their minorityism, and that will what happen to the GCs. I'm expecting.
Okay, perhaps that could. If that does, then it'll then even if they are divided, they are going to be divided by caste, because caste to matlab 200 saal se it has been imposed on us in that sense, like that identity has been frozen or attempted to be frozen.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, then if these people can be stitched together to form a kind of alliance, then खिला ये होगा कि how you can tear away parts of that. That's what I can see. Like, I'm thinking in terms of how if I was a mainstream political leader, I would think that okay, these idiots have come together and they've done something. Now I have to divide them. Now dividing them is easy. There are many ways. See, firstly, another aspect of the caste thing is, you guys forget the other big voter bloc of India, that is women, who almost vote united. Hindu, non-Muslim and non-Christian women, they vote as not a bloc per se, but they do vote in very certain weird patterns, okay, which is going to go against most interests of the nation. Have I said, like, I know this sounds horrible when I say it, but the fact is women are trained to vote for freebies. They are taught to vote for freebies. And the kind of schemes that who do you think the Hindus who vote for TMC, for example, they vote, the mostly are women. The people who vote for Aam Aadmi Party and stuff like that, most of the voters are women who are Hindus. So so you're not just considering caste, you're also forgetting the intersection of gender. Unless you can, the GC crowd, you can unite them on, let's say you unite all of them, then the women will be lured away by women's reservation and all that other crap, that women-centric schemes and all that. So you're forgetting that. Okay.
How much is there gender heterodox voting really? Isn't that overblown because BJP wants to come across as a feminist party? How many Brahmin women really do not vote according to whatever the Brahmins in that area voted? How many Muslim women do not really vote as per the Muslim family?
No, don't confuse Muslims with Muslim women and Christian women with the women outside those groups.
And lower caste women even. How many lower caste women really vote for BJP as opposed to their rest of the family who votes for maybe some BJP opposing casteist party?
Hence Ladli Behna, hence those schemes. Why do you think that these schemes keep coming up? Konasri, Ladli Behna, these, that, whatever crap. Why do you think Lokhir Bhandar and all that stuff is a hit? Because of that. Because they know that women are going to vote. You know what Mamata Banerjee did with Shasto Shati? She made it in the name of the women of the family. She did not. Typically, most schemes that are family schemes by the government would be made by on the name of the male members, the oldest male member. Okay, and Mamata Banerjee played a master stroke. This is what you actually call a master stroke. Not like you lose the battle and then say master stroke. Okay, this is what you call an actual master stroke. What she did was she put the schemes such that the cards would be in the name of the women. Now, whether the cards actually work or not, whether you get actual benefits or not, doesn't matter. The woman sees that I am being given something by the government. Okay. And then she votes according to that. That is how most women vote. So that's why you will see there is the weird way in which, the incumbent governments are voted a lot by the women. Change actually takes place in the male male groups, and then slowly they have to pitch away, chip away at the women voters and then get it. Okay,
that's what Narendra Modi did as well, right? When he built the houses, he made the houses in the names of the women, right?
Yes. That's how. And
yeah, go on.
Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, all the schemes. Why do you think there are women-centric laws in this country? Despite the blatant misuse of those laws, they are all designed to alienate GC or most non-Christian, non-Muslim women away from the whatever community they have. So that's why the 33% women reservation that works. I mean, at least it works at the pitch. Whether you're never going to get that, you're never going to be an MLA or MP. But they see that, okay, at least this party did this for me. Tomorrow I could be Elon Musk, a female Elon Musk in India. So they vote for that.
We have two interesting comments from Abhay Agarwal here, just to make this more juicy. He's saying if everyone is a minority, then no one is a minority. First of all, can that work, or will Muslims be considered the majority because they are 18% and nobody else has a count of 18% in the country?
Bhai, there is a big issue here. You see, if you, I know, see, the game you're trying to play is very interesting, because if you think that people will readily accept that Muslims are the majority because I am a minority, I don't think it's going to work like that. You see, the first thing, when they think I'm a minority, let's say you convince, BBK that they are the minority. Okay, you do that. They are going to be pitched against Mutuas and Rajbanshis and other Damai shows and these other castes.
Yeah.
Because the problem of pitching a caste as an identity, which is minority, is always going to pitch them against other castes before they are pitched against other religions.
Yes.
So that is what's going to happen. Now, if you say Hindus are a minority, to make that claim, you don't have money. I mean, you have to play mental gymnastics with the people at a different level. Matlab, you have to keep telling them repeatedly that, and then it will work. It works in places like Jammu. It works in places like West Bengal, where they are actually almost close to the minority. So then a large section of people wake up and say, oh, damn, we're screwed. And then they come together. But the problem with, other states is you can't play this game. You can't play this game in other states. You can't play this game in Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Gujarat, Rajasthan, all the North Indian states, Bihar, UP. You can't play this game. This game will work only in West Bengal, Jammu Kashmir, maybe Kerala sometimes if it could,
It is a fact that when when we make different castes are as just the beneficiaries of a minority pro-minority policy, then castes will be pitted against each other. What I'm wondering is how much more? How will it be different from today? First of all, and secondly, I'm wondering when they realize directly in their lives, organically, not because of Savarkar's dream or hopes and we waiting for academic funding and stuff. They see that okay, it's not really benefiting me to go against that other guy who seemingly worships a god similar to mine, but now we have to build a block because we are such a negligible small group because of our caste. Because in Madhya Pradesh, there are going to be different castes, all of whom are going to be minorities.
The problem happens with that. Now, matlab, those castes, will they want to exist as minority? That won't happen. Like, they will chip in and they will make a bigger alliance and all that. Again, a lot of them will not even claim to be minority because then they will be shoved aside by Congress and BJP equally. Okay. The problem with the self-proclamation of minorityism is a very difficult thing to do when it comes to caste. अभी तुम अगर हिंदू खेलना चाहते हो, then you have to basically, like I said, the thing that works in West Bengal won't work in Madhya Pradesh, but you have external aggressors like Pakistan, Bangladesh, all that stuff. Then that's the only, like I have told you in the past, that's the silver bullet that helps BJP on many occasions. It continues to. And I'm not saying that's a bad or a good thing. I'm just saying that's how it works. Like, you have to show Pakistan and Bangladesh and then West Bengal and Kashmir as what can happen, and then you can, whatever.
One person is saying that Ramakrishna Mission should be declared non-Hindu by Shankaracharyas, as Ramakrishna Mission do Mleccha, fictional Jesus Pujan, and SW. Woke Nirananda was Freemason agent, Western black magic, which metaphysically strongs Abrahamism. Now, what I'm wondering is, do most Hindus care if Shankaracharya declares RKM to be Mleccha?
See, basically,
what's this imagination of Shankaracharya to be the Pope of Hinduism? Where have they received this? This person definitely has read more Hindu texts than me. Where has this this notion come into his head? Based on which text?
This is based on, like, if you read Dumos, like the origin of Dumo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I told you many times. Okay. That the origin of Dumo will tell you ki the version of trad Hinduism that the Shankaracharya fans adhere to, that is a direct reflection of Christianity, Christian ideals of papal authority. Okay. So what am I trying to say? Basically, I'm trying to say that when people think that, okay, this is the Hindu order where the Shankaracharyas are the greatest, most powerful and most authoritative beings to decide on who is Hindu and what is Hindu and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If is the vision that you have, then that is totally fake, because that was imposed by colonial authorities who wanted to just see Hinduism as a version of, like, as a similar thing to Christianity and Catholicism. Christianity bhi ye kaam nahi karta hai. Christianity bhi, like, the Pope is not a majority leader for most Christians. Most Christians don't abide by what the Pope says. He's just famous these days. I mean, it doesn't even work that way. So that the idea that the Shankaracharyas are all powerful beings powerful in the sense politically and religiously powerful, is not even going to work for majority Hindus. And if most majority Hindus don't even care what the Shankaracharya thinks or says, then by your very definition, then Hindus are a minority, and again we fall into the same thing.
Nitin is pointing out that there are almost 7,000 plus castes. So all of them are small minority groups. Will then they still go on with their self-defeating caste politics, or will they unite? And because now they will have to unite because they are not considered to be the majority religion. And we end all debates of whether casteism happened in 2000 BC or 2 days ago.
Like Nitin, who read like 2 books and decided to become activists and stuff. forget that. Like, can you quickly share your screen? There's a book called The Sun Also Rises. The Sun, SON, also rises.
Okay.
This is a comparative analysis of social mobility in many parts of the world. It's a comparative historical project based on economic history. Clark, Gregory Clark, he's a historian
Okay.
who is cited. He has worked on how, so there was this notion that the West was more progressive and social mobility oriented than Hindu society. Yes, this book, The Sun Also Rises. This is by Gregory Clark. I would, recommend this if possible for you all. It shows that social mobility was heavily restricted in England and every other society. So the problem is not having castes, because castes are basically occupational groups at the end of the day at some level. The question was whether Indian society was more rigid than the West. That is the basic question. It's not about 7,000, 20,000, 1 million castes. हाँ, ये तो बकवास है वैसे भी. मतलब occupations changed across generations. Then caste भी change हो जाते थे, as you've read in Hitesh Ranjan Channal and others. Right.
No, here again, commies and trads agree that castes are based on the specific rituals, the way of doing the rituals, not the profession. Hence, 7,000 plus.
Which have also changed over the years. Many. There was this anthropologist who was against Risley. Okay. I will find his name. He actually said that every few years, he used to do field work in India, and back then the colonial authorities, unlike Risley, they actually did. A lot of the people who were actually involved in this actually went out in the field and studied these people. Okay, they used to actually stay with them in the villages and whatever. So he said कि भाई ये तो अजीब चीज है. Every few days the caste changes. Okay. Matlab, every year he finds a new caste. Okay. So I'll read out a small quote to you. Just give me a sec. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Just 1 second. I just have it here.
Now, even if they were not rigid and they were evolving continuously, the argument today would be that was that objectively inherently a good thing in itself, and therefore should we now keep evolving just because we used to evolve at one point? Yeah, that evolve karte the, so what?
Evolve karte the, so what? It means that that means that the question of identity, that we are basing so much of our policy and everything on activism, policy, politics, all that. It's all a facade. It's fake, totally fake. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the other issue, that if you're going to that's why caste, the way the British and Congress and all these people thought caste would work never actually worked. Like when the Samajwadi Party stitched together an alliance regarding with Muslims and Yadavs, did they ever think that Dalits and Brahmins would become best friends and vote for Mayawati? So they never thought that, right? So that's why what I'm trying to say is the question of caste has always been so fluid that you can't even accuse people of there being 7,000 castes. Matlab kal 1 million bhi ho sakta hai. There's no question of that. See, I'll just read that quote, okay, by William Cook.
Yeah.
He gave this in his presidential address in the Journal of which was published in the Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1896. With the origin of caste, we have naturally been much concerned. It is quite certain, at least, that it is not of divine origin, that it is a comparatively modern growth, that it is not peculiar to India, that it is based more on social needs than on religious principles. We are forced to believe that caste, as we observe it, is for most part of occupational origin. This is not only those castes which are obviously such as washermen, blacksmith or dyers. Even Rajputs we know to be a collection of septs of very different origin and status. Some are of bluer blood than noblemen in Europe. Others, as in Awadh, have made up recruits from other lower tribes. The same is possibly the case with the great Levite corporation of the Brahmins. The Jyotshi or astrologer, the Mahabrahman or funeral priest, the beggar like the Dakat or Hussaini are no doubt drawn from less respectable sources from their so-called brethren. The keen, high-bred Pandits of Mathura or Benares. The same is obviously the case with industrial aggregates or guilds, which we call castes. Such organizations are in a state of flux. Every year, fresh endogamous groups are being formed due to squabble over eating or precedence. Some new feeling of scrupulousness as eating flesh or drinking wine, marrying widows, or permitting the marriage of infants. This was William Crookes' address to the Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1896.
Now, do you think most people agree or disagree with this notion of caste?
Most people disagree with this. Most people
From
still think that
all economic backgrounds and all caste backgrounds.
Most people disagree with this. Most people have been convinced that it's a religious thing because this is how the state works. The state will convince you of very stupid, fake things. Okay,
Yeah.
William Cook was sidelined in favor of Risley. And what Risley did, you all know. That's what Dirks wrote his book on. Most of you know that. And यही तो problem है कि the state will always look for ways to do the least and get the most, get the highest amount of taxes and political support, ensure perpetual political support for the least amount of work. So if they break you into little castes and they kind of value some castes more than others, then they have won the war. They have already won the war. That's how they did it, and that's why they did it, and that will continue to happen. No matter how much you declare 1% minority or majority, people are never really going to come together the way you think they will come together, unless there is an external oppressor. That is all I'm trying to say.
If they are the minorities, then they will. If they are not treated as the majority, then they
ये
will.
तुम्हारे अंदर ये मास्टर स्ट्रोक वाली सोच हमको बहुत ये हो रहा है, हमको बहुत डर लग रहा है.
Now, if most people do not agree with what you just pointed out, therefore you see we are not talking about what is the truth or what must we follow, what is the ideal to follow or hope for or wait for. I'm saying if it is what it is today, which is something opposed to what is written there, at least let's say what is today is still the truth, but what people believe to be what happens today is not the truth, then all of them must be declared the minority. All of those separate castes should be declared the minority, and Hinduism should not exist on paper. And then you will see interesting alliances come up. Those will, I think, don't you think those will lead to better outcomes? And what we are hoping to do with Hindutva anyway can happen with that. Obviously, you don't so far, but think of libertarianism. We know that we kind of agree upon this fact that state cannot benefit Hindus as a whole. Libertarianism is inherently sort of a great operating mechanism for Hindu society. So even when our state goes on remaining socialist or goes on increasing their degree of socialism, in that situation, the only way to inculcate some sort of libertarianism or decentralized value systems, decentralized groups that can still exist, but still look for unity where it is in fact required, without blurting out Savarkar into their ears 24/7. The way to do that, I think, is to declare them minorities. Declare every caste a separate identity. Whatever unity they have to do, that will be done by them. Or then, if at all some group, some new political party or some old political party with a new vision wants to do casteism politics or appeasement politics with different castes inside those 7,000 minorities, they can have different ways of appeasing them.
Okay, I finally see what you're trying to say, and you will lose 14.6 है ना अभी तुम्हारा 14.6 के सब्सक्राइबर्स. अच्छा चलो bet लगाते हैं 1000 या उससे कम. Anyway, so I agree with you on paper, but yeah, I mean, if the caste census is done properly, I think that will open a can of very different kind of worms.
What's your definition of properly?
हाँ, ये जे बात properly means
Because
that
when it comes to upper castes or let's say Brahmins and stuff, they will usually go for just the Varna. For everyone else, it will be Jati. So it's going to end up being a clusterfuck again, right?
yes, that's what I was going to say. यही तो problem है कि मतलब जाति के basis पे if
तो
they
काहे
do
का
it,
लौड़े का enumeration होने वाला है? What enumeration are we waiting for?
हाँ वही तो मतलब देखो if it is going to just be based on your jati identity, okay, then कुछ तो लोचा होगा, because like you said that in some cases they will use varna, in some cases they will use jati. हाँ, so you know, in that sense it will be a big problem. But let's say they do consider every jati, like Stotriya Brahman, this Dokhinariyo Brahman and all that stuff, and they Varendra Brahman, and they group all these
Yeah.
jatis separately, and they kind of find jati everywhere, including Brahmins and Kshatriyas and all that stuff. Let's say they do all that. Then what will result is that 7,000, 10,000 castes maybe come out of the whole thing. And if the 10,000 castes come out, let's say, in that sense, and like you say, that you know there will be most castes will be minority, then I don't think that I guess, you know, it could happen such that, you know, these castes also start claiming some things. But like I said, a 1% caste cannot do that. A 1% caste is like an outcast.
Hence the organic unity which we cannot have right now, because right now we are hoping for Savarkar's dreams to come true with just YouTube channels. But it will happen the moment all of them are left naked on the street.
Yeah, I think it could work in that. That's why I said a caste census, a properly done caste census based just on jati, will open a very different kind of can of worms. It won't be the usual can of worms we're thinking of. And imagine if some caste like the, let's say, Mahishos turn out to be like 1 crore people in West Bengal, or let's say the Yadavs turn out to be 25%, which is quite difficult in UP. If that is the case, if let's say, you know, again, I heard this, that apparently there will be caste certificates will be taken care of. Like, matlab, let's say tomorrow you identify as Matua or you identify as Yadav or something, it won't work like that. So you have to show that you are actually a Yadav, and matlab jaise caste certificates work. You have to.
How does someone show they are actually Yadav? They take a cow along with them or what?
No. They kind of what they do is they your father and your family member has to declare that you are a bona fide Yadav or whatever you're claiming, Gurjar, Yadav, Jat, whatever, and then they have to get it signed by a local authority or something, or matlab local caste head and then authority, aisa kuch system hai. So that's why and there are these you know caste groups, matlab caste associations that work. So Yadav Mahasabha, this Mahasabha, that Brahman Mahasabha,
right.
all that stuff. So these sabhas and all, they kind of have the, you know, they know each other, so they know that this family is that caste, and then they give that they say that this family is this, and so you get the official document from the government. West Bengal में कुछ अलग हो रहा है. West Bengal में many people who are from GC castes have been getting SC/ST certificates and OBC certificates just by bribing local. मतलब यहाँ पे इतना कम caste, माने caste को लेके, see the problem of West Bengal is, unlike UP, Bihar, Odisha, and all these places, the people here a lot of times don't know any of their neighbors who are of what caste. Okay. So what ends up happening is that, and because as you know that West Bengal has always been a political society, right? So the political party rules everything. So if the political neta says that ye wohi caste ka hai, then you get it. Okay,
Hmm.
you get that identity. It totally works according to that. So it's very in West Bengal it's all messed up, really fucked up badly. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We'll see Brahmin kids trying to get SC/ST certificate. They'll disown
Yes.
their Brahmin identity. And this is what happens when you allow kind of DEI policies to become officialized. But मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ कि देखो, it's a big problem. Of course, it may not be so easy because the SC/ST community is very they're not going to let somebody get these privileges so easily. At least not in the states.
AcademicMan, I'm not proposing or suggesting to anybody that they ask something from the state in this context, okay? Because if we really had to ask the state to do it, then we would say just stop, recognize all castes altogether. What I'm proposing here is that every caste file petitions to their relevant courts and stuff and declare themselves to be a minority and not Hindu. That will really work, I think.
No, I agree that on paper it sounds great, but that's the other issue, that you have to get every caste to kind of do that.
No.
And that's
once they see, let's say one group, I guess, a pen caste gets those benefits by declaring themselves not Hindu, then others will follow suit because incentive structures work, and we can't hope forever and ever for the state, for the society to become Savarkarite and the state to become Milton Friedmanite. So why not just do it amongst yourselves? And especially since I hear from our viewers that caste identity is alive and well between many people outside West Bengal. It's only the West Bengali communists who have forgotten their caste identity and therefore our downfall. So why don't all of them go and declare themselves not Hindu and get minority rights?
yahi to, there is the other issue that, according to, again, Supreme Court and all, you can't get reservation benefits if you're not Hindu. Like, let's say you declare yourself to be a non-Hindu, you can't get reservation benefits.
Yes, but Mamata Banerjee makes sure, although she got snubbed by the Supreme Court anyway. So yeah, so just get minority benefits.
अरे वो भी तो प्रॉब्लम है ना. द गवर्नमेंट वोट, देखो ये क्या है ना, जैसे सुपरमैन को जब जगाया था ये वंडर वुमन एंड बैटमैन एंड ऑल इन दैट जस्टिस लीग, then what happened is Superman said, you won't let me live, you won't let me die. So ऐसा बात हो गया, मतलब you won't let me remain a Hindu by privileging caste identity, and then you won't let me stop being a Hindu by saying कि caste identity का जो benefit है वो तुमको तभी मिलेगा जब तुम हिंदू होगे. You're getting my drift. It's a class. It's like totally like it's a game. It's a game for the state, and they played it too well. And this is what happens when you give the state all control over your life and everything.
It is a game. It is a game, but it's not going to be a sort of a race to the bottom the way it is today, because different alliances will have to come up based on the small numbers of the GC castes.
I am telling you that let that other can of worms come out. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. But dekho, all this is redundant in the face of the fact that if the government does a caste census, all that becomes redundant.
Will Jati be retrofitted into Varnas, or can we have caste census based on just Varnas?
No, I don't think we can ever have on Varnas, because Varna matlab half the people will say I don't even know my Varna. Or the other problem is that everyone claims to be Kshatriya. Like, if you ask some SCs, they will also claim to be Kshatriya. So Varna ke basis pe nahi hoga. Like I said, the government has its own ideas of whom it wants to group as what. It's always been the case. That's what the colonial authorities did. Matlab, when the Namashudras are claiming to be Brahmins, the colonial authorities, nahi bhai, tu Brahmin nahi hai. मैं बोल रहा हूँ तू नहीं है, मतलब इट्स लाइक दैट. मैं बोल रहा हूँ तू है, तू दलित है, मैं बोल रहा हूँ तू है. Okay, that kind of thing. So the state does this deliberately. But I think what the Modi government is trying to do is, if they find out the actual numbers of jatis and the numbers that each jati brings, it upsets a lot of the existing weird political alliances that are there in different
Yes.
states.
Diyan is saying that, but Shankaracharya himself was reforming Hinduism post-Buddhist dominance, and it doesn't even make sense to parallel Abrahamic faiths in this. She's saying in the context of us saying that the only reason you are considering
I'm not
Shankaracharya to be
talking
from
about
South
the great OG Shankaracharya. I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about the recent ones. And मतलब देखो 200 साल से जो हो रहा है, we're talking about that the British wanted that, and मतलब सिर्फ British नहीं, मतलब French anthropologists also saw that. There were people who saw Hinduism as a version of Christianity, a different kind of, not version of Christianity, like a parallel religion similar to Christianity. हाँ, उसमें ब्राह्मण को बैठा देते हैं ऊपर में. Even when Brahmins were actually getting discriminated against, they were like Brahmins are the deep state. Okay, so ये deep state खेला is very interesting, basically.
AK Brahma is saying caste census is ridiculous. There's absolutely no logic of it in the in 21st century. Do you see any logic to it?
I see a logic to it. When your state is doling out benefits on the basis of caste, then the state should know, which caste is there and how many. Right. Like if dekho, most benefits are now being doled out on two axes. One is caste, another is gender. Okay, gender का तो फिर भी तुमको आधार डेटा वगैरह मिल जाएगा. Caste, what you have is colonial era stuff, which has changed a lot, especially after 1990. A lot of Indian society has changed. Birth rates have gone down. So you don't have the kind of percentages and stuff that you think you do. And in that case, you have maybe sometimes you are, let's say, giving a caste a lot of power and money. That's what the state does. And then the state realizes, "Arey bhai, these people don't even matter. They're less than 5%. I don't give a damn about them." That is when a lot of, like I said, a lot of new worms will come out.
Polymerist is saying, I like the caste. Yeah, go on. Sorry, finish the point.
It might have an equalizing effect in that if every caste is pissed off, there's a big possibility of it happening, or majority castes are pissed off. Let's say out of the so-called 7,000 or 10,000 castes that are there, let's say 8,000 or 9,000 are pissed off. Okay. Then there will be a different ball game entirely.
Polymerist is saying, I like the caste census for my own evil reasons. I think the census numbers will blow the bubble of a lot of caste political parties.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm also trying to say. That it will certainly disrupt a lot of the claims of a lot of the existing leftist political parties. It will destroy a lot of their claims. And it will also put a lot of other people on notice that the non-dominant caste, like let's say you have 6%, 7% number, and you're competing with a Yadav who is like 20-25%, right? If you're competing at that level, then you might actually become more friends with what BJP does, right? That non-dominant caste, stitch an alliance of non-dominant OBCs and Dalits and defeat the dominant ones. That works. That works for Hindutva in a weird way.
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah. You're just saying a more like with extra steps. What you're saying is extra steps wala of that version, basically.
Now, so you see, some groups in India seem to be handicapped from speaking from the state POV. No matter what they seek, you can't hope for the BJP to do something or the central government to do something because it's not feasible. You're not supposed to criticize the BJP at some points because either the war is going on or the eternal sentence of election sar pe hai, or because it's not feasible. On the other hand, you can't declare yourself to be a minority because you won't get the reservation benefits as well.
Yeah.
So, on the other hand, we are such a united front who's always a threat to Muslims. So, this is what is going to go on then for the foreseeable future.
No, that's because the biggest issue that the biggest issue that I see the Hindus still don't understand is that the look at how academia works. Okay, this is the problem that most people don't understand. You see, most of Harvard and all these Ivy League universities, which control the narrative of the whole world, okay, look at who are funding them. They're not funded by Indians. They're not even funded by blue collar Americans. They're funded by corporations, giant corporations. Some sections are funded by some Jewish billionaires and stuff. Some sections are funded by the Middle Eastern countries which are rich in oil. Some are funded by Chinese. Okay. So who are they going to, so the arts has always been about creating negative narratives. So who do you think they're going to create the negative narratives about? Right.
If Hinduism doesn't exist, if only different castes exist, then who are they going to build the narrative against?
अरे भाई वही तो प्रॉब्लम है ना. जब when they have to erect a boogeyman, they do that. They erect caste, then they say that everyone's unitedly hating against Muslims. They always do that. It's not a rocket science thing. It's all about who says it. It's never about what is being said. It's always about who is saying it.
Yeah, that's the general nature of humanity.
That game has been played by Muslims and everyone much better than we have ever done it. So we're going to get screwed because of that. The fact is that till what you're saying is said by some Nobel Prize winner or somebody like that who has a degree from Harvard or Stanford, it's never going to make sense. It's never going to be the same. You can't expect Sanjay Dixit to bring up everything in the world and win over people. Right? It's never going to happen.
Yeah. Diane is saying if everyone becomes a minority and reservation is made in a chunk like OBC or SC/ST, then cutoffs should tend to the general GC cutoffs during admissions in education, or is that me misreading it completely? Yeah, depends on whether GCs, what would be the population of GCs. That's how much rights they would be able to get for themselves.
That is the bigger issue. That has always been the issue. Your numbers you're just a number for the state. And I see no other, no other solution anytime soon except, like you said, declare everyone a minority and let's play the games. Let's see how
everyone must declare themselves a minority. Okay, I obviously can't do the live stream for too long because someone has had the genius idea of putting a mic on a dhak, even though the thing is the puja is happening inside a home. But just to end this quickly, AK Brahmo is saying, please make a video on how we can counter the socialist narrative because I feel this is the thorn in the arts. We need a counter narrative. AK Brahmo, wouldn't you agree that my entire channel does just this each and every day for the last 3 years? Because if so, then specify how else do you mean? What would be your answer, Academic Man? And then we'll have to end because of the talk.
पैसा दो लोगों को खरीदो पैसा मतलब buy Nobel Prize winners, buy academics, spend on, you see Qatari money, you see what Al Jazeera does.
Buy means B-U-Y buy, okay?
You see what Al Jazeera is able to accomplish. Will Al Jazeera ever report on the practices in Qatar? It never does. It talks about democracies and people will cite that. People see those reports and believe that reality. Yahi problem hai. And if you think that I don't know, if you think that some random channels will help on YouTube, it never works. It won't work after a point.
Polymerist, is Academic Man libertarian? Polymerist.
Absolutely. At heart. अरे तुम्हारा mic off है.
Since we won't be able to continue the conversation for too long because of the dhak playing loudly along with the mic.
नहीं मारेंगे. तुमने बोला सबको minority declare करो, trads ने तुम्हारा घंटा बजा दिया पूरा.
No. I know their caste, and I know they have no solidarity towards anything other than their caste, and even towards their family. Like I adopted a stray dog in my home because everyone in the even though everyone in the alley that I live in liked that dog who was randomly abandoned in that neighborhood. There was only two families who did not like that dog. Okay, so you see, majoritarianism doesn't work here because the three women who hated that dog united and went to the police versus all
Yes.
the other people in the alley who liked the dog were irrelevant. And the three women who complained about the dog, two of them were from the Vaishya Varna, one of them was from the Brahmin Varna. Now, the fun thing is, two out of those three women are absolutely devout Vaishyas as well as Brahmins. Uh, the Brahmin woman, her son, her husband, her father-in-law are all day long doing some ritual or the other on their terrace. And the Vaishya family is where we are seeing, we are now hearing the Paloharini Puja. So if you just declare all of these people minorities, they will know who to fuck with instead of a stray dog. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining in the live stream. We'll have to end the live stream right now. Good night, guys. Bye bye.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ধরে ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো